Now let's take you back to the main news of the day in Ukraine. Those tanks, the US joining Germany and other European allies, sending their tanks to Ukraine to help in the effort against Russia. Leo's joining us and he's been looking at the media reaction to the news. Leo.
Yes, this is, of course, the big news of the day, as you say, Stuart. The news that the US are committing tanks to the Ukrainian front lines to help in the fight against Russia, as well as their European allies. At least 31 tanks, it's been reported. President Zelensky said that the world is joining together in their goal, which is the liberation of Ukraine. Just having a look at some of the front pages. The UK, two very similar ones here. You've got the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror. World united against evil, as the Mirror see it, and world united in defending freedom. Having a look stateside, slightly less jingoistic. Western tanks are coming to Ukraine. Will they be enough? They're just questioning, is that enough? 105 tanks are going to be sent overall. This piece argues, in this opinion piece, that you need at least 5 times that to really make a dent. And the timescale, according to the New York Times, it won't be until spring or maybe even as late as summer until those tanks are actually delivered from the US, so they won't be able to help straight away on the front line in places such as Bakhmut. Let's have a look at the German reaction. Of course, they have agreed to send Leopard tanks. Upgrade, oder game changer. I don't know what your German's like, Stuart, but that means upgrade or game changer. They're basically saying what impact will these tanks have? It's how they're used that will make the difference. And just to finish on some Russian reaction, this is from the paper Vzгляд, which in English roughly translates to perspective. They say that this commitment is an admission by the US that they're entering they wish the strategic defeat upon Russia by sending these tanks. They're crossing a red line.
Leo's going to stay with Russia for this next story. Big news in the sporting world this is, as it's been announced that Russian and Belarusian athletes could be free to compete as neutrals at the 2024 Olympics. How likely is that to happen, though, Leo?
At the moment, it looks very likely, actually, from how the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, have reported it. They said that they're willing to explore a pathway for Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete in the Olympics next summer, which is, of course, here in Paris. They report the news here. They're clearing that path, as they say, and they quote the IOC in it, saying that a passport shouldn't stop athletes from being able to compete. If you've watched any of the Australian Open, which is going on at the moment, they have a very similar system. They let Russian and Belarusian athletes like Arina Sabalenka or Andrei Rublev, they let them compete under a neutral flag. So it would be a similar sort of thing if this was to happen. It's also been reported in the Russian news, Russian state media, TASS. As you can see, they've not had any comment on it, just a statement. In fact, it's unlikely to go down well, even in Kiev. President Zelensky said just this week that Russian athletes should have no part in the Olympic Games.
India for this next story, a controversial documentary. It's about the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It's been banned in the country. What's the reaction been there to the censorship, though?
Yeah, so Stuart, this news came through a few days ago. There's a BBC documentary, and it's exploring Prime Minister Narendra Modi's role in the 2002 religious riots, which saw 2,000 people killed, mostly Muslims. The documentary has been banned. Police, as you can see, the Washington Post here reporting there's been arrests, there's been power cuts, police using their power to completely ban this documentary. It's been pulled from online, from Twitter, from YouTube. The government really going to drastic lengths to stop it from being seen. There was violence at JNU University in New Delhi, and recently, as Hindustan Times reports, a screening of the documentary at Punjab University, which is in Chandigarh. They got half an hour in before security forces came along and they stopped them. The government have tried to justify it. They said that the documentary lacks objectivity, but critics have hit back. They've said these measures are draconian and dystopian.
And talking of dystopian, you can't get much more dystopian than the Netflix show Squid Game. It hit our screens back, of course, in 2021. Pretty violent it is. And the South Korean drama became Netflix's most watched show of all time. But they're now filming a real-life version of the show. But not all has gone as planned, has it, Leo?
They are filming a real-life version. I just want to give you some insight here. Stuart's told me he's never watched Squid Game before because he can't be bothered to read subtitles. That's just some insight to France 24.
Thanks.
But they are filming a real-life version. 456 participants, like in the show, to win up to £3.7 million, or just over €4 million. But as you say, it's not gone as planned. The Sun had this exclusive. Contestants were forced to stand out in the cold, -3 degrees. They were standing there for hours. It's at an old airbase in Bedford in the UK, and complaints came in of hypothermia, frostbite. Some carried off on stretchers. Netflix hit back. They said, look, it's not as bad as it seems. No one was actually carried off on stretchers. No severe injuries. Nonetheless, it's not a great look for the streaming giant.
No, very, very true. Just to be clear, I don't mind subtitles in the cinema, but at home, too exhausted at home to start reading subtitles. Thanks, Leo McGuinn there. Looking at the papers for us here on France 24.